So I haven't been reading as much as I'd like to lately, and that's probably because I'm spending way too much time on my phone. So today I'm going to be swapping out my screen time for reading because I'm really curious to know how much I would actually get done if I didn't spend so much time on my phone, and hopefully I'll also be able to reset my habit of too much screen time and replace it with something that I'd rather be doing anyway. So I'm just gonna look and see what my screen time actually is, and I have a feeling that it's gonna be a lot. So I'm slightly embarrassed to admit how much time I've actually been on my phone lately. So I'm averaging 4 hours and 19 minutes a day. To be fair, most of the time that I'm spending on my phone is going towards YouTube, which is actually what I play in the background when I'm doing chores like cooking, cleaning. So I feel like that doesn't really count, but for the purpose of this video, we are going to go with the total time. So I normally read maybe 30 minutes to an hour a day if it's a good reading day. This might be kind of challenging for me, but you know, I'm down for the challenge. I have been in a pretty bad reading slump all summer, but you know, I am getting back into reading and I'm finally excited to read some more. And I actually have a series that I started reading that I am just so obsessed with. If I read that book, then I think this shouldn't be too hard. I really want to finish this book. I really want to know what happens. So that might be my goal for today, is to read that book and see if I can finish it. But before I get into which book that's gonna be, I wanted to tell you about Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a mental performance shot that has ingredients including matcha, L-theanine, ashwagandha, and lion's mane that can help improve focus, attention, and reduce stress. What's unique about this product is that it was actually formulated by doctors and medical researchers using over 200 different studies behind every single ingredient that's in here. It's convenient, portable, and it's been really helpful for getting my days back on track, especially when I got sick. I've been drinking Magic Mind over the past 2 weeks, and I've noticed that I don't get the jitters that I normally do when I drink caffeine. I get this really nice, even distribution of energy levels, so it's been really nice to have when I'm getting work done. If you're looking for a supplement to add to your self-care routine, you can use my discount code NicoleB20 at checkout to get 20% off of your first purchase at Magic Mind. And I want to thank Magic Mind again for sponsoring today's video. I'm so excited to tell you guys what book it is, and I know I'm late to the party, but I've been reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. Yes, I know that book came out like almost 10 years ago, but better late than never. And when I tell you that I am obsessed with this series, I feel like that's an understatement. It's been literally consuming my entire life. I'm looking up fan art of it. I'm looking up fan fiction. I'm all over Reddit. I've been watching a ton of YouTube videos on it. I feel like the last time I was this obsessed with a series was when I read maybe Twilight back in high school, and this is a romantasy, and so Twilight was also a romantasy, so it's giving me that same vibe, but honestly better. I am just having so much fun reading it. I already read the first one with my friends, and I've started reading the second one. I'm about halfway through, but I'm hoping that with the time that I'm supposed to be reading today, I'll actually be able to finish it. I know that I've said that I love hardcover books. I'm a physical book girly all day, every day, but I've been reading on my Kindle for the past like week or two, and you guys, I feel like I'm entering a new era of reading. I'm officially in my Kindle era, and I'm just loving it. I think because it's so lightweight and portable, it's been really convenient. So A Court of Mist and Fury is really, really thick. It's like over 600 pages long, and it would just be a monster to carry around and read, especially since I prefer hardcovers. It's been really nice to have it in this compact little thing right here. What's also really nice is that I can read it in bed, and since my husband sleeps earlier than I do, I can still read, because when we turn off the lights, I just hide under the covers and I'm like reading until 2 a.m., which is definitely a problem. I should probably tell you guys what it's about. Maybe I'll just talk about the first book because I don't want to spoil the second book, just in case you haven't read it yet. So the story follows Feyre, who is a human, and she lives in poverty with her 2 sisters and her father, and she's the only person who's providing for her family. So she actually goes into the woods and has to hunt for her family so that they don't starve. And in this world, there are also fairies, different types of fairies. There's the High Fae, who are ruling as nobility, and then there are other types of fairies who are known as lesser fairies, who I guess have different powers and who also like look different. And then there are some fairies that are really, really dark and evil and terrible. The relationships between fairies and humans is really strained after the war, and so they built this huge wall to separate the fairylands called a Prythian to the mortal realm. So the fairies and the humans live on 2 separate sides of the wall. But one day Feyre does something that gets her in a lot of trouble with the fairies, and then she encounters a fairy and she ends up having to deal with the aftermath of that. I tried really hard not to give anything away. I really love it because it has everything that you would want in a romantasy. It has this really rich storytelling and world building. There's lots of magic and lore and some really, really hot high fae. So I feel like if you like romantasy, then you'll probably like this series. I mean, there's definitely some issues, I would say. It's not perfect, but it's highly, highly entertaining, and it's also spicy. So I just wanted to say that in case you are not a fan of spice, this book has a lot of spice. I'm gonna set a timer for 4 hours and 19 minutes, and we'll get started. So I've been reading for about an hour and 20 minutes now, and I think I got through 10 chapters so far. When I started, I think I was on chapter 30, and now I'm on chapter 40, and I don't want to say too much because I really don't want to give anything away, even though I feel like most people have already read this series by now, but I am really enjoying it so far because I'm getting to see new courts, and I don't think that's a spoiler because in Prythian there are different courts where different high lords and fairies live. So I've seen the spring court, night court, and currently I just read about the summer court, and I feel like things are really starting to pick up. There's a lot of character development happening with the characters who are still in the story. I feel like it's probably overambitious to even think that I can finish this book today, but I'm gonna keep trying. I have my nice sparkling water to drink, and I'm probably gonna pick somewhere else to read just to kind of change the scenery a little bit, keep things interesting, and I'll check back in when I'm finished with my next block of reading. Okay, so I did it. I read for a total of 4 hours and 19 minutes today. I've literally spent all day reading, and it's actually pretty late already. I am really proud of myself for sticking to it and for reading what I set out to do. This is definitely not something I can see myself doing all the time, but it was a good exercise in just seeing how much time I actually spent on my phone and what I could be doing instead. And I didn't finish this book, but I got pretty close. So I think the last time I checked in, I was at chapter 40, and now I'm on chapter 54. Like I said, this is a really, really long book. It's over 600 pages. I really wanted to finish it so I could talk about it, but I'll have to save that for another video. Okay, I just had to cut in because I did finish the book the following day. I felt like this video wouldn't be complete if I didn't share my thoughts after finishing it, so I'm gonna tell you guys now what I think. I did have a couple of 5-star reads this year, but this is my first 5-star fantasy of the year, and I forgot how much I love fantasy. And this is exactly what I needed, I think, to get out of my reading slump. And I've been trying really hard not to share spoilers because I don't want to give it away for people, but I think I'm gonna have to talk about it. So I'm gonna share a little bit, like, spoiler free of my thoughts, and then I'm gonna go into some spoilers. So I'll let you guys know before I talk about the spoilers so that, you know, if you don't want the spoilers, you can just skip that part of the video. And I just loved how adventurous the story was, how exciting it was, and I just loved how there was just so much tension in the story. And I remember when there were these like action-packed moments, I was literally like on the edge of my seat and I was like biting my nails, just thinking like, oh my gosh, what is gonna happen next? Like I can't take this anymore. And even though we're talking about like mystical beings doing things that, you know, like don't exist in the real world, I still felt like I could connect with these characters and that their emotions were just so human and realistic, and I really appreciated that. There was also a lot of spice in this book, like way more than the first book. And there was just so much buildup. By the time the two main characters get into it, like I just was like, oh my gosh, finally, because they've been teasing it throughout the entire book, and I was just like waiting for this moment to happen. I was like, oh my gosh, is this gonna happen now? Like, are they gonna kiss now? And that sense of like yearning and anticipation and building the tension was so well done in this book. I think it was chapter 54, or I could just be making that up. But it was a moment where one of the main characters, like the love interests, one of them finally tells his whole side of the story. And when I was reading it, I was like holding my breath because I was thinking back to all of the things that happened in the first book and then the second book. And as he was telling the story, I felt the same sense of like awe and realization that Pharaoh was feeling. And I was just like, no freaking way. I was like mind blown at all of the little details and connections that Sarah J. Maas was finally starting to piece together. And I just felt like, what an epic love story. I'm starting to get so attached to these characters. So I'm gonna be super sad when the series is over, but I'm gonna try to savor it as long as possible. Okay, so I kind of went into like the general details of what I thought about the book, but now I want to talk about like specific things that happened.
Spoiler alert!
I just felt like this was such a roller coaster of a book. We spent the entire first book basically watching Feyre and Tamlin fall in love, and honestly, I felt like it was a really earnest relationship at first. I was really rooting for Feyre and Tamlin, and you know, the whole Under the Mountain thing happened, and I kind of had a feeling that Rhys was gonna be like the love triangle, but I was still team Tamlin for maybe like the first 75% of the book. And then when the Under the Mountain stuff happened, I was like, okay, I'm starting to like kind of get a vibe between Rhys and Feyre. And I was like, maybe this is it, you know? Like, I actually kind of think Rhys might be a misunderstood character, you know? And I really liked his like dark and brooding vibe. I mean, okay, let's be real, he did some pretty like terrible things in the first book, but he kind of explains it in the second book, like when he was giving her drinks under the mountain so that she wouldn't forget. You know, that's giving like really like creepy, messed up vibes, right? Like, you know, making somebody essentially like drink so much that they forget what's happening. He did that so that she could forget about all of the horrors that was happening. So, I don't know. I mean, it's still a little like iffy. He didn't want her to suffer or anything, so I guess I get it. I don't know. I mean, it's still questionable, okay? I'm not saying I condone that. There were just some really like romantic elements in this book that I really loved. I really loved the little notes that they were writing back and forth between each other and just the flirtation that was happening between them. I really appreciated the themes of found family. I just really, really loved Feyre really starting to open up and find her people, because she, for the first book, like been through some really, really hard things, poverty, starvation, losing her mom, and now going to Prythian and being like under a lot of traumatic stuff. It was really nice to see her open up and really start to like own her own power. So I really loved that side of the story as well. One of the things I felt too was this like sense of longing and yearning for a place that I've never been to. I remember reading Sarah J. Maas's description of Velaris, and I was like, I want to go there. Like, how do I find Velaris? Like, how do I get to the Night Court? And how do I get to the Court of Dreams? And how do I find this like Rainbow Quarter, you know? It did get kind of confusing at the end. So, I mean, it wasn't perfect, right? But like, I think overall, it was a 5-star read. There was this part where Feyre, they're going to Hybern to get the Book of Breathing, and then they get in pretty easily, which, you know, is kind of like a red flag. I'm like, it shouldn't be this easy to steal this almighty powerful cauldron from the King of Hybern, right? And then it took me like a couple of rereads to figure out what was happening with that giant burst of light. I was like, what is happening? And then I realized that she was pretending that she was actually breaking free of the bond that she has with Rhys, and then she was gonna go back to Tamlin. That took me a couple of reads to be like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. But I did not see that plot twist coming, and I got like chills just like thinking about this, and just like how Feyre has all of her powers now and how she's going to use them to essentially get information from the Spring Court and work against Tamlin. It was just so good, you guys. Like, I loved it so much. Definitely 5 out of 5 stars. I would give this more stars if I could. And I don't have like a solid rating system for 5 stars, but you know, when you just feel like a book is 5 stars, that's how I feel. There's the politicking, the fantasy, the romance, the world building, the characters. I loved all of it. Okay, I'm gonna get off of my high horse now and I'm gonna get back to our video. I'm glad that I tried this. It was a good experience, and it was nice to remember that I can sit down and read a book and stay focused on something for a couple of hours at a time. So I think I'm just gonna end this video right here, but thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support, and if you like today's video, please like, comment, and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you're not sure what to comment, let me know if you've ever tried swapping out your screen time for reading or any other activity for that matter. I'm really curious to know what your experience was like, or maybe just comment down below what your current screen time use is, because I also want to know that. I want to know if like 4 hours is average, or if I'm spending too much time on my phone, or if it's not that bad. But anyway, I just want to thank you guys again so much for watching. As always, take care of yourselves because you deserve it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.